Greetings, beloved ones, and welcome to our fourth class on principles of purification that are part of the larger title, The Practice of Purification. In the first three classes, we covered the beginning principles, 1 and 2, and in this class, we're going to talk about 3, 4, and maybe we'll get to 5. So, what's important to say about this is that these principles have been gleaned from the actual process of purification that people go through. They don't come from someplace far away from you, they come from inside of you. And so as I speak about these principles, number 3, to start out with, think about how it affects you, because it's meant to be helpful in the intimate details of how you navigate the process of purification. So, principle number 3 has to do with understanding the difference between feeling and knowing. Now, why would that be important? There are several reasons, beloveds. Degrees of reality that we accord to something. How real is something that we perceive? How real is the guidance we perceive? How real is a concept that somebody speaks to us about? How real is something we read about in a book? Degrees of reality come to us with greater strength the more that we can feel them in our bodies as a direct, tangible, physical, energetic experience. The body participates in how we determine what's real. The body says, this just feels like I know this is happening. So the reason it's important is because feeling and knowing determine our view of reality. How do we know what reality is? And they also become decision-making points in relation to how confident we are about, let's say, basing action on a decision that is based not on feeling, but on knowing something. And that's why I want to point out to you something here about the difference. If feeling something as a body sensation conveys to us a sense of reality, then where is knowing? Is it located in the body? And is it reliable? And does everybody have it? And how much can you trust it? So these questions are very important to life. Do you have to feel something in order for it to be true? Or can you know something in order for it to be true? And what does that depend upon? In a spiritual path, in a spiritual life, pursued in any direction, with any tradition, there are things that you desire to experience that you haven't experienced yet. What is experience? Well, experience means, more or less, you feel it and you know it. You have had something that says to you, this is what it is. In other words, experience conveys to us a high degree of reality about something, and is most often based on feeling something that is strong, that tells us something is real. But what do you do if you don't have that feeling? Do you have nothing? Do you have something? Herein lies a big dilemma and also a big answer. Because, beloved ones, you are not just your mind, and you are not just an observer of sensation, and you are not just an observer of emotion. Every human being has within themselves a source of knowing. Knowing means that something seems true to you, and you don't know how or why it seems true to you. It's not based on a sensation, it's not based on an experience. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. Knowing is something that comes from your core self, your soul, your place of truth, any name you want to give what your deeper self is. It's an indelible, permanent, not logical part of your being that says, this is what I believe about life, this is what I feel is true. Now, if everybody has a sense of knowing because they're connected with their deeper self and their soul, that is, they have a deeper self and soul, then why isn't it sufficient to define reality? Because, beloveds, we've stopped trusting this way of knowing, this way of determining what's real. That's why. We have become more scientific in our orientation, more behaviorally focused, more evidence-focused. So in order for us to know that something's real, we look for proof, we look for confirmation, and on the emotional or energetic level, we look for something in the body that says, this is real. Well, that would be all right, except for all the things that are true that you don't yet have a sensation about. And if you invalidate those things, and you say, I can't know that it's true because I don't feel it, this is a big dichotomy that comes up. Do you know something or do you feel something? If you say it's not true unless I feel it, well, you're eliminating as truth all the other things that haven't arrived on your body radar yet, but have arrived on your intimate knowing of something. And so what's involved with that dilemma is trust. Trust yourself. How much can you trust your knowing? How much can you believe that you have a sense of truth in you that can be relied upon? If you're looking for evidence, if you're looking for corroboration from somebody else, well, then you're not going to believe that you know anything about anything until it's shown to you or proven to you by your body. Then you'll rely on the sensations or your emotions as you experience them in your body. But I'm trying to convey to you that there's a whole world of knowledge that lives inside you that you can access if you don't have to be tied to the evidence that something is true because you feel it in your body, that you can know it's true because something in you tells you it's true. You were born with that. It's your birthright to have a sense of truth. It's not something that's given to you, it's something that was inalienably yours from the time you were born and before you were born also. So in the progression of becoming a defined self, of becoming a more self-aware self, we grow roots into what we know that are strengthened by our sense of ourself. We grow roots into what we know, and we become more able to say, I know something without it having to be proven to me. I know it because I know it. I know it because I trust my sense of truth. I know it because I have a sense of truth. That's a spiritual progression. To be able to trust something that only you feel as truth. Nobody else can tell you whether it's true or not. And you feel it securely enough so you're willing to, say, base your life on it, make decisions based on it, trust it, even though you don't know why you trust it, even though it hasn't produced something that you can say, corresponds to a sensation in your chest or in your heart or someplace else. You know it because you know it. Now I want to mention one other thing before I close this description. It is possible to mistake feeling for knowing. It is possible to overestimate what you know and to be incorrect about what you know. Everyone is vulnerable to that, because there are degrees or shades of certainty with which one can know things. Perhaps in a certain end of the spectrum, you know things with great certainty that can't be shaken by anything. Nothing that anybody says to you or does or whatever they might say is not going to make a difference. So you have 99.9% certainty about something. But there's a large area in which you have less certainty. And so you can overestimate your knowingness, and because you feel like you want to know more, it becomes something that's really a motivation. I want to know more, so I think I know it. But that kind of knowing is not what I'm talking about. The knowing that I'm talking about is not based on a motivation to have more knowledge because you feel better when you think you know something. That is not what I'm talking about. That's a development of the identity that tries to feel better about itself because it knows more. It's a way of feeling more worthwhile in the world because you know more. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sense of truth that comes from a deep place that's unshakable, or that's close to that place that I said was 99%. That's not having anything to do with who knows that you know something. Nobody else is going to know what your truth is but you. That unshakable quality is your place of knowing, not the other where you're trying to claim more knowledge because you feel better about yourself. Not that. So, beloved ones, we are on a passage of trajectory from less knowledge, less truth, to more truth. The truth that comes to us comes from the soul, comes from the deeper self. And so information can be acquired by you, but truth comes from inside of you. It doesn't come from outside you. Information you can read, you can digest people's opinions, you can talk to people, and you can collect different points of view. Truth is something else. Truth is a place where you stand alone in it, and you don't need anybody else to tell you what's true because it's so much present. That's where we're going, beloveds, for each one embodied on the earth, to be able to stand securely, joyfully, and with confidence in their own sense of truth. May it be so for you, beloveds, and for the world, because when each one knows what they feel most deeply, then each one can become their own truth. And in that way, harmony, because harmony is the development of all the truths coming together, because they blend as one. That's what the world picture looks like when each one is capable of standing in their own truth. May you be blessed with this awareness for yourself, and may it grow in you. Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Namaha. I bow to the Supreme Being that lives within all. Namaskar. Welcome again to our fourth class on understanding energies, the process of purification. I spoke earlier this evening about the difference between feeling and knowing, which was principle number 3, and now we come to principle number 4, which is one that is going to be very central to every person's life, every person who has relationships with other people. This fourth principle has to do with the importance of withdrawing projections from others. Withdrawing projections from others. What does that mean? It means that there's a whole range of negative emotions. It could be positive, but mostly they're negative emotions that we attribute to other beings because they bother us, we don't like what they're doing, they hurt our feelings, they criticize us, they get angry with us. We attribute motivations, feelings, attitudes to whoever it is that is the object of our projection. Projection means that something from inside of you, starting inside, gets placed outside of you, and you think it belongs to that person. This is the easiest thing in the world to do, and everybody does it. Everybody who is not already withdrawing projections finds it very easy to blame other people for lacking something, for being deficient in something, because that deficiency causes discomfort. Let's say somebody says something that hurts our feelings, so that activates discomfort. Or somebody is silently critical. They don't even have to use words. They body language or gestures or facial expression conveys disapproval. So we project the attitude of disapproval onto their face, onto their inner state, their state of emotion, and we attribute it to them. Now, as I said, you could attribute positive emotions to people, and it could be projection also, but mostly it's not. Mostly what happens with projection is that it gets stronger when we want to blame somebody or judge somebody for doing something that we don't like. Mostly that's the domain of projection. Well, one could say, what's wrong with that? This person did something to hurt me. This person did something that abused me. This person did something that prevented me from reaching a goal that was important in my life. What's wrong with blaming them for that? Well, that's conventional perception, as we have known it through the filter of the ego self for thousands of years. We are willing to assume that the way we feel is caused by somebody else. We are willing to feel that way. In order to withdraw projections from other people, first of all, there has to be a willingness to, and secondly, you have to know, I won't say 100%, but something greater than maybe 50%, that the whole universe, everything in it that happens to you, is created by your thought. Everything that happens outside of you is coming from inside of you, without exception. Well, that's not entirely true. There are some isolated instances of exception, but for the most part, what's inside gets projected outside and creates the drama of life. So this requires great awareness and a deepened sense of responsibility to give up the willingness to judge and blame others because they're lacking something. It requires the willingness to do that because blame is really easy. You can feel justified, you can feel strong, you can feel superior, you can feel self-righteous, you can feel all of those things. And there's nothing easier than to feel you're right and somebody else is wrong in what they did. So it's a default position that the ego manifests in order to sustain itself, to say, I'm right, you're wrong, you did this, and that's why I'm feeling badly. Along the way of spiritual evolution and of gaining greater wisdom, the thought comes that you have something to do from inside of you with what comes back to you. You have something to do, you generate the drama of your life because of what you're carrying inside. You learn that you're a powerful being, a powerfully creative being, capable of generating the drama of your life. And you can do that along with other people too. I'm not saying you do that just by yourself. So if you know that your thought, your consciousness is actually creating the landscape of your life, then there is more of a willingness to take back your projections. If you think that you're justified and that the problem is out there, you're not ready to even listen to what I'm saying. Because listening to what I'm saying is based on a picture of reality that some people haven't arrived at yet. Withdrawing projection means that the first place you go to when something happens that is interactive, let's say, is to see what does it correspond to in me? How have I invited this? What could I be doing that would disinvite it? What is the hidden attitude? Because these invitations to interact with other beings who are hurtful, they're not something that you think. You don't think, I'm going to interact with this person so they can hurt me. I don't think anybody thinks that really. But on a subconscious level, there's an interactive factor so that you are drawing to yourself something that you want to interact with, not consciously, underneath that. So the withdrawing of projections means a heightened sense of responsibility, a belief or knowledge that you are the creator of your life, a willingness to let go of the ego defense of moral superiority, and out of all of that, an investigation, a willingness to investigate what is it in you that's creating the reality that you're in with others. What is it in you? So that's a pile of things to be able to be willing to do. To let go of blame, which is an ego defense so that you can feel better about yourself. To believe in the power of thought and your own creating of your life. To take responsibility for yourself so that you do whatever you can to do the self-inquiry about how are you participating or creating this present circumstance. That's a lot. It's a lot, and not everybody's ready. But the withdrawal of projections means that you progressively are able to see the truth within yourself. Because while you are attributing something to somebody else, you are not seeing the truth in yourself. You're seeing what you think is the truth in them, which is often not about them at all. Not at all. So you're not seeing something about you. So, beloveds, this is a stage in spiritual, mental, emotional, moral development that has to do with a heightened awareness and willingness to take responsibility for your life. For your life by looking inside you always for what needs to change. And when you can do that, you can become free. You can't become free to create your own life until you withdraw projections from other people. Because if they are causing things in you, well, then you're just reacting. That's not freedom. That's compulsiveness. You're just reacting, so you're not choosing how to react, you're just reacting. But if you know that there's something you can do internally about reshaping your thought, reshaping your attribution of responsibility, of causality, well, then you're free to have any life you want, because all the change is inside of you, and you decide what you want to change. This requires a certain degree of spiritual maturity, beloved ones, and it requires a commitment to the things I just mentioned, to self-awareness, to the willingness to let go of moral superiority in the interaction where you need to be right and somebody else needs to be wrong, and the willingness to look at yourself. What in me is creating this life that I'm leading? I wish that for you because I wish for you greater freedom. And I wish for you to know that you are the creative power of the universe. You are creating your life and bringing to yourself the circumstances that you are dealing with. May you be blessed by this awareness, beloved ones, and may you, in whatever way you are ready to, allow yourself to go further along this path of learning about yourself. Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Namaha. I bow to the Supreme Being that lives within all. Namaskar.